Something doesn't feel right about Ezra Bridger. Greetings, curious travelers of the unknown galaxies, and welcome back to the archives. In episode 6 of Ahsoka, it was finally time to get full reveals of Grand Admiral Thrawn and Ezra Bridger. As expected, Ezra has grown up quite a bit since we last saw him, but many have been saying it feels a bit too soon to have gotten to see Ezra, soon enough to even be suspicious. There is a brand new theory now that Ahsoka is setting up a rug pull, and that Ezra Bridger is not exactly who he once was. Simply put, he has turned to the dark side, or perhaps something worse, and we just don't know it yet. Either he's putting up a farce for his friends, or he has somewhat gone insane and doesn't realize what he has become. Either way, this theory is one that we couldn't pass up looking into, and today we're going to discuss it. If this was true, it could potentially be game-changing for the future. Ezra is one of the rare cases in Star Wars where his story hasn't been fully written out, so anything could feasibly happen. But today, my friends, we are going to open a holocron and discuss the aspects of this theory, specifically the reasons people are suspicious of Ezra and the evidence to support Ezra's turn. Then we are going to weigh in ourselves by giving our thoughts on the probability of this being true, and why it both could and couldn't make sense. So now, let us begin. As we mentioned a second ago, it feels almost too good to be true that Sabine found Ezra so quickly. Typically in these kinds of stories, even if our hero finds the planet, the one they are searching for doesn't reveal themselves until much later. However, Sabine finds Ahsoka within a quarter of the episode, simply talking to some locals and being led back to their village, the village where Ezra lives. While their reunion was heartwarming, and it was certainly a blessing to see Ezra alive, free of imprisonment, and in good health, there are many acolytes who said that they were feeling alarm bells going off with his appearance. Strangely, there was nothing specific that jumps out to us initially as to why this meeting of Ezra feels so odd. That is why at first we dismissed the theory. But after listening to the reasoning of why people feel this way, some of our researchers began to get a bad feeling about Ezra. It's just too soon and a bit too good to be true. Unless they are trying to move the story on a bit quicker. I have my reservations, and I am beginning to wonder if we are going to see some of Ezra's dark side tendencies, especially when Baylan and Shin go to confront the two Jedi in training. But let's actually get some hard evidence down. Of course, even what evidence we have is a bit vague, and admittedly a bit flimsy depending on how you look at it. Having said that, our evidence comes from the mouth of Grand Admiral Thrawn when he speaks of Ezra. When he gives Sabine the intel that she requires, Thrawn mentions that Ezra might be dead. She responds that she believes that he's doing just fine. Thrawn then says this though: "You would gamble the fate of your galaxy on that belief." Some have pointed out that Thrawn doesn't see himself as a threat to the galaxy, but rather a savior of it. In this moment, he didn't ask Sabine if she'd gamble her cause or even her life on the belief that Ezra is fine. Thrawn said the galaxy. But this isn't the first time. He mentioned earlier how Sabine's fate and quest was tied to the fate of the galaxy itself. Again, Thrawn is not the kind of person to see himself as a reckoning, but as a liberator and a bringer of stability. It is possible that Thrawn now sees Ezra as some sort of monster. It's quite strange that he told Sabine that he'd give her the latest updates on Ezra's whereabouts, implying that Thrawn has kept tabs on him this whole time, but has decidedly not engaged him. This could be because of Ezra's new violent nature. Thrawn mentioned that their numbers have significantly dwindled during their exile. That's to be expected when entering an unknown and possibly hostile new terrain. However, Thrawn obviously found favor and companionship with the Night Sister remnants, and was able to conserve enough resources to keep the Chimera flying, which is a feat of ingenuity if we've ever seen one, considering just how expensive and abundant the resources needed are to sustain an Imperial Star Destroyer. But of course, an uncharted planet still comes with its problems, the least of which are raiders. So the Stormtrooper numbers could have thinned over the years due to this or natural causes. However, many believed that it was Ezra himself that trimmed Thrawn's ranks over the course of many years of pursuit. The dark side taking hold of Ezra practically went on a murder spree among the Stormtroopers. As they chased him, he eventually gave into his fear and hatred of them, getting revenge for him abandoning his friends. At this point, Thrawn isn't even concerned about killing Ezra, but just wants to know where he is and make sure to keep him at a distance. Even if that means acquiescing to Sabine and giving her provisions to find Ezra, anything to satiate this new beast. Morgan suggests that they send more troopers to aid Baylan and Shin to execute Ezra and Sabine. However, Thrawn refuses, saying that only 2 squads will suffice. He goes on to say that it doesn't matter if Ezra and Sabine live or die. Thrawn's objective is to escape this galaxy. Perhaps this is a leap, but this says something very significant on the part of Thrawn's thought process. Not only has he seen these rebels squeeze themselves out of impossible situations before, but perhaps he isn't confident that anyone he sends after Ezra will ever live. After sending 2 squads of stormtroopers along with 2 well-trained and powerful dark Jedi, Thrawn doesn't seem sure that those forces will ultimately matter. Instead, he insists that it is irrelevant if Ezra lives or if he dies. They're just trying to leave Peridia as soon as possible. This might say that Thrawn doesn't believe he can stop the bloodthirsty Ezra if he even wanted to, not with the limited resources and firepower that he has on hand. Not to mention that this strange power that Baylan seeks on Peridia may have taken hold of Ezra as well, and he has mastered an aspect of the Force that makes him extremely dangerous to Thrawn. Many have pointed out that it appears as if Ezra is now wearing the dog tags of various stormtroopers that he likely killed during his time in Peridia. While this is all quite interesting to speculate, the most important and often overlooked aspect of theorizing is discussing the actual probability that this is the case. Our deduction on this matter is that the chances of Ezra being darkside are decidedly low. We speculated for a while and discussed before how Ezra is completely drawn to the dark side and could perhaps join Anakin and become the new son of Mortis for this brand new age, representing the dark as Anakin represented the balance and Ahsoka the light. While that could still be a possibility, many have accurately pointed out that this might backtrack on the journey that he went through in Rebels. In Rebels, Ezra overcame his anger towards the Empire and let go of his selfish ways around Palpatine. If the Dark Lord of the Sith could not turn Ezra to the dark side, but Grand Admiral Thrawn could, that would detract from a lot of the aspects that were set up in the past and undo a lot of the character development that Ezra went through in Rebels. Not to mention, Ezra is living amongst peaceful and timid people, obviously helping them out by protecting them against raiders and predators. All of this is very in character for Ezra Bridger, who was known for easily making friends with just about any non-Imperial life form he comes into contact with. All of the villagers seem completely comfortable around Ezra, so clearly his kindness is not a facade. But if he had turned to the dark side, how would this work? Perhaps Ezra has gone insane in his exile, something like what happened to the clone of Joruus C'baoth in Legends. Of course, Joruus may not be the best example, as it was explicitly stated that he went mad because he was a clone. Anyway though, Ezra might have gone crazy in exile from being away from his friends, entering a land that has a completely strange way with the Force, and being constantly hunted by the Empire. One killing spree later, and he feels so much better, so continues to kill the stormtroopers sent after him, believing he's doing the right thing. This happens until Thrawn's numbers are dwindled so far down that the Grand Admiral is forced to relent his pursuit and to leave Ezra alone. This may be the only way I could see this working other than Night Sister magic or something else darker calling to Ezra that has corrupted him. The same thing that might be calling to Baylan. If they decided to go the route where Ezra is corrupted, this could play perfectly into the theory that Abeloth the entity is calling to Baylan and potentially has control of Ezra already. If perhaps we could assume that maybe Abeloth has driven Ezra mad in his dreams and brought him to the dark side. But anyway, my friends, this is what we have so far concerning this theory, but I'm sure we'll learn more in the next episode of Ahsoka. But now, what are your thoughts? Do you believe that Ezra has embraced the dark side of the Force? Why does he have all the stormtrooper dog tags? And is there something more going on here? Why does Thrawn seem terrified of Ezra, and why was it so easy for Sabine to find him? As always, my friends, may the Force be with you, and I hopefully will see you in another video.